Hey guys, thank you for tuning in. Today we're going to talk about loops in Python. We have a list here of numbers from 1 to 5. So we're going to loop this. So we're going to use a for loop. So we're going to write for num in nums print num. What we're saying here is that we want to create a loop where we're looping through each value on our list, and each time through the loop, this num variable will be equal to the next item on the list. So the first time it'll be equal to 1, the next time it'll be equal to 2, 3, 4, and so on. So let's go ahead and run this. As you can see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's look at two important keywords when working with loops, which is break and continue keywords. So the break keyword will completely break out of the loop, and the continue keyword will move on to the next iteration of the loop. So first, let's look at the break statement. Let's say that we're looking for a certain number on our list, but once we find it, we don't need to continue looping through the rest of our value. Now, this is when the break statement comes in handy. So let's say we're looking for the value of 3. So here I will say if nums equal 3, then we'll print found. And then we'll break out of that loop. So now let's go ahead and run this. As you can see here, it started off 1, 2, but once it got to 3, it did not display 3. It just says found it. So notice that it did not continue to loop because we did meet this conditional. So it printed out found, and then our break statement broke out of the loop statement. And when it broke out of the loop statement, we didn't reiterate through any more values. So it did not go through 2 values or values 5. Notice that we broke out before we printed the number 3, and it never got printed. What if we wanted to ignore a value but not break out of the loop completely? So to do this, we can use the continue statement. Now continue will skip to the next iteration of a loop. So if we replace the break statement with the continue and run, we can see here, just like before, the first 2 times through, 1, 2, it didn't meet this condition, so it didn't do anything within this if block, and it just printed out 3. It printed out found, which met the conditional, and then it continued to 4 and 5. It's important to understand the break and continue statements because those, a lot of time, there's a lot of different use cases when they come in handy to solve certain problems. So now let's look at something that might run a loop within a loop. This is possible. So within our loop here, we're going to replace this conditional with an inner loop. So now let's say for letter in ABC, out num, comma, the letter. So what's going to happen here is that each number, it loops through each character in this string, and it will print out the number and the character, then move on to the next number, and it'll do it all over again. So let's go ahead and run this. And as you can see, 1A, 1B, 1C, 2A, 2B, 2C, and so forth and so on. It gives us every combination of those numbers and characters. So now we want to be careful with nested lists, because these combinations can grow quickly. And if you have nested loops with a lot of different values, then it may take a while to loop through all the different combinations. So there's going to be a time when we just want to go through a loop a certain number of times. And there's a built-in function called range that is really useful for this. So let's say that we wanted to run through a loop 10 times. We can just say for I in range 10, print I. So what it's going to do if we run this, can I run this? Okay, so for I in range 10, print I. As you can see, it starts off at 0. It will count all the way, loop all the way through 9, but it will not display 10. So it starts off at 0. But if we didn't want to start off at 0 and we wanted to start at 1, we can pass the value and say 1 to 0, to 10. So now when we run this, as you can see, it starts off at 1 and it ends at 9. If you wanted to run the last value, which is 10, you'll have to go all the way up to 11. Sorry. You'll have to go to 11, and then it'll go ahead and print all the way until 10. So for now, we're going to move on to while loops. While loops are for iteration through a certain number of value, but while loops will keep going until a certain condition is met or until we hit a break. So for example, let's say we have a variable of x equal to 0. Now we can say while x less than 10, we can say print x, and then we'll iterate x plus equals x plus equals 1. Okay, so we have to remember that this will keep on going forever until this condition here evaluates to false. So if we want this loop to end at some point, then we have to remember to increment this x so that at some point it will be greater than or equal to 10 so that it breaks out. So now if we run this, then we can see that it prints out 0 through 9. So it came and saw that x is 0, which is less than 10. And it goes through the loops, print the values, and then now x is equal to 1. It checks again. 1 is still less than 10, so it stays in the loop. Then 2, 3, yes. So it will keep doing this until we increment x from 9 to 10, and then it will come and make that check. So if 10 is less than 10, which is not, which evaluates to false, then it breaks out of that. So at any point, if you want to use a break to break out of, so at any point, if you want to break out of the while loop, just like we did for, just like we did for the for loop, we can say if x is equal to, so let's go ahead and do this. X is equal to 5, then we just want to break out. So then let's go ahead and run it. So we can see that it went through 1 to 4, and once it broke out, it just stopped. Sometimes you'll just want to create an infinite loop that never ends until you get some input or find some value. Now, to create an infinite loop, you can just replace the comparison that you're doing here with a value of true. So now that we have true, don't forget to put your capital. So there's no conditional here. So if we run it, sorry, give me 1 second. I need to erase this. So there's no conditional. So now you can see that it printed the same thing. So now you can see that it printed the same thing, and it will keep running forever because we're using a value that is conditional. Here we're stuck in this infinite loop. In most operating system, you can click Control C and it will stop this loop. So now it's incrementing by 1. But I hope now that you guys understand how loops work, and see you in the next video.